Hi everyone, welcome to Osavul podcast. And our today's series are dedicated to the hybrid threats deterring Russia before it's too late. Our distinguished guest is Etudas Bajarūnas. Eitvydas is a senior fellow of the Democratic Resilience Program at the Center of European Policy Analysis, CEPA. Ambassador Bajarūnas brings more than 2 decades of diplomatic and defense experience, having served as Lithuania's ambassador to the UK, Russia, and Sweden. Eitvydas, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Andrew, for invitation. And we started to mention we started this conversation with a warming up remarks by Andrew about situation in Kiev, which I deserve is much more of the topic to talk. But since our session is devoted to hybrid threats, eager to share Lithuania's and international insights and sort of approach to the issue. Thank you again for invitation.
Awesome. So, Eitvydas, you have published a very nice article about hybrid threats, and it's an ultimate guide how hybrid threats actually work. And I would say everybody knows about hybrid threats, but you talk
Absolutely.
about gray zone. But you talk about gray zones in hybrid threats. Could you please elaborate on that? What are the gray zones in hybrid threats, and how do they work? What are their tactics?
Yes, indeed. Andrew is referring to my recent quite in-depth article or report published by CEPA, Center for Europe Policy Analysis, where I have continued to work as a non-resident senior fellow. So I would probably start with a bit of intro. My story with this phenomenon of hybrid threats started of course. We all living under the Russia's shadow and now Chinese shadow or whatever, Russia's shadow. We are affected historically. We've been under this Russian various dirty and shadow schemes for decades, and if not for ages. So it's result. But this phenomena, which started to be called in EU NATO jargons as a hybrid threat, which some of the experts disagree. So I will probably not concentrate on these definitions, and there is a lengthy academic debate on some experts say this is not correct wording to call hybrid threats. Some are saying this is simply continuation of this asymmetrical warfare which Russia started already, or which is known in international strategic thinking already for years. Other experts simply refer to Soviet Union, sort of maskirovka, all other experiences. Yeah. But the bottom line is, if you take aside all the definitions and the debate on what is most correct wording, the bottom line is you do overt that sort of influence or the warfare. You start war, like Russia started the war against Ukraine in the 24th of February 2022. That is overt. You don't need you're not intent to hide this. You simply shell your neighbor or your target, and you kill people without hesitation. Although I should admit, even in this 2022 war, which is continuous, unfortunately, Russia have also managed to use a bit of tactic, this shadow hybrid. I am referring to the very name, the Специальная военная операция, special military operation, which meant that even if they started this overt conventional war against Ukraine, they decided for the purpose of the internal consumptions, and probably for the sake of the international the conventions dealing with the military crimes, they decided to hide this under this Специальная военная операция, not war. So this not war is the essence of this various hybrid or shadow tactics. You, because of your weakness, or because you want to hide this, or because your intention is you don't want to disclose all your cards, you use various various mechanisms, which is, as I said, under this rubric, as this now already in all strategic theories, this green man occupying Crimea, or disinformation and so on. So this phenomena came to my radars as a professional in 2016. I was finishing my posting as ambassador to Sweden, and I was about to come back to Vilnius and to serve in ministry in capital. So Minister Linkevičius, then my boss, offered me this job. Eitvydas, we need someone in ministry in the government to coordinate this action, because one of weakest point of response by various governments and organizations is that when you deal with a hybrid threat, you need focal point to understand, to discuss this, and also to research, but also to respond from one's entrance points. So that's why my role was a bit of to have this traveling Lithuania's circus in various EU NATO capitals, trying to explain, because that is also another important phenomena dealing with hybrid threats, especially by small countries, by middle-sized countries like Lithuania, that you need international collaborations, because Russia is big. Russia have a lot of leverage, and sometimes you cannot cover all aspects. For example, you cannot introduce sanctions by Lithuania. That is not what you want to achieve. So this phenomena started in my career in 2016, and then this was exactly the period where NATO EU started to introduce this definition in their documents. But and then the problem was 2016, that when you go to your allied capital, Madrid or Lisbon, and no offense to my dear Spanish and Portuguese friends, but when you talk about Russia's methods, again used in Ukraine and continuously used in Lithuania, this bribery, using what expert call this weaponization of everything. So when you use you manage to use all weakest points of the country or region in order to have influence of this country, to have leverage of this country. So when you talk with the Spanish, they say, Mr. Ambassador, but of course Russia is not ideal country, we know, and you have suffered from Russia, but are you not a bit of mad to call everything what is happening in your country Russia? So what is Russia to do with your elections? Elections? No, you are a democratic country. You are holding elections. So why you, with all your sort of historical legacy towards Russia, why you call everything Russia? And that was the important element. Try to define, what are the Russian methods, what they want to achieve, how they are using this hybrid threats. Later, when international EU NATO understanding started to grow, and this is I have this joke that we need to thank this to Mr. Putin, because the more Mr. Putin was interfering in the affairs of EU NATO, the more countries started to took this seriously. I'm not talking current period, which is more known with the sabotages and various Russia's operation, which goes much more beyond hybrid threats, arsoning, killing of people, and sending drones and balloons. But even 2016-20, there was a lot of smaller and bigger Russia's operations. Again, I remember. Again, sorry for using this second time the name Spain. 2018 was quite a period in Spain, internal sort of crisis of Spain, whereby one of Spanish region, Catalonia, was doing a bit of this pro-independence activities, and it was very sensitive period in Spanish internal sort of politics. And I remember visiting Spain just after actually Russia conducted quite an in-depth operation shaking all Spanish society. There was one period where Catalonians decided to go in open manifestation in Barcelona, which is by all standards, international democratic standards, it's not very pleasant when big city is full of people and they want to protest against Madrid central government policies. But by democratic standards, it's okay. So Spanish government was a bit of nervous, and they felt that if there will be some tensions and bloodshed, you cannot avoid this. There will be a big damage to Spanish reputations. Everything went very well. There were some smaller and bigger accidents, and suddenly Spanish-speaking media, social media, Facebook and Twitter, started to be flooded with images of police beating people, and people are laying on the streets of whatever town, and the blood, and the Spanish commentators saying this is what is now happening as we speak in Barcelona, and Spanish authorities, they said it's nothing is happening like this. We are receiving reports. So later, the Spanish authorities made a thorough investigation, and they found that there was actually the Venezuela speaking social media bots and trolls started to flood with the Russian support, started to flood this into the Spanish-speaking social media environment. So for Spain, when I came to Spain, they said, "Mr. Ambassador, do you follow these hybrids?" I said, "Yes. Now we understand. We are fully sympathetic with you and with your struggle to deal with Russia's efforts." And they understood, of course, the Spanish or other our NATO EU colleagues. That, of course, living next to Russia, you are even more vulnerable. You have Russian. You still have Russian business. Your energy sector is very intertwined with Russian. A lot of you have a Russian-speaking population living in your country, and so on. So of course they understood that for smaller neighbors of Russia, this is even more dramatic case. So this is the period. Then there was period where, at one moment, 2018-20 onwards, more and more EU and NATO countries started to adopt very similar strategies, which we actually then Lithuania we copied from Finland, and then of course many other countries started to introduce the same, which was called all government approach, whereby you're not nominating one single ministry to deal with, because you don't know. It might be influence using the culture, or it might be influence using your energy network, whatever. So that's why all government approach meant that you have well coordinated focal point in your government, which in case of hybrid attack might deal with in the complex way. They will understand, because you might have as it happens in Ukraine in 2014, cyber attack followed by Russian dressed Russian GRU dressed civilians started sort of civilian arrest, and then continued with the Russian propaganda. So that's why you need to have as a response all government approach. Then of course you need to have in-depth analysis, attribution, how these hybrid threats are attacking or going to attack you. You need to have strength and resilience of your population, be it media literacy or be it resilience of your energy network. So this is the phase which each country is obligatory should overcome. But then, and this is, I am coming now to finishing my my intro. But then, and this is what my article is about. I felt at one moment, and that was shared by many experts, that when you are only emphasizing resilience of your whatever society, media, or you are one stage late with penetrator. So Russians or whatever your enemies, when they think about other spheres, how they can hit you, they know your weakness, and each time they can introduce new and new methods. So with the resilience, which is again obligatory stage, each country should introduce in an all government approach. But you need to have much more, and that is I came in the literature. I came about with the idea that it's deterrence by punishment. You need, like in the war, you need to have a strong army, but also you need to have army which send signal to your enemy. If you touch us, you will be hit. If you start a hybrid attack against us, there will be punishment. It's not like we will only absorb this hybrid attack and that's it. No, you will have punishment. You will be punished. And that is the signal to penetrator. Think twice whether you are really want to do this, because the price you pay will be even more higher than the results achieved. And this is the I probably finish with this intro, and then we can continue go in more in depth. So Andrew,
I just wanted to ask about this because it's a very interesting topic. So how can a state react to this? How they can punish the penetrator? Because I mean, you talk about that it should be done commonly together with other countries, but we all know that Baltic states are at the first wave of these attacks, are at the front lines. And how do the states by themselves can react, do, and preempt all this stuff? So, is there any kind of new tactics that they should use? Because we know about sanctions. Sanctions work, but they are very long, they are very cumbersome. And what about other methods? What can states do about that?
So this is what my article is about. I presented the whole list of measures. I might start with your very notion of what single country can do. Indeed, our possibilities, especially for smaller countries, are quite limited, but not neglectable. For example, in the first years of when this phenomenon started to bother us, for example, disinformation, of course, the natural instinct of Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia was to go to Brussels and to start to introduce this topic to our EU colleagues and to demand that EU Commission would jump into the picture, which was inevitable phase, but very slow. You have Russia's disinformation attacks happening now. Brussels reaction in 2016 was, okay, we will establish working group. We will ask experts in 1 year period to come with thorough analysis what's happening. So of course it's important to have analysis, but so national reaction of Lithuania was as I said very minimal, but still. So we changed our law dealing with mass media, and we established as part of this law, this radio TV commission was established, which got a power to monitor Russian TV activities in Lithuania, which was still in 2016 was still aired in Lithuania. There were 3-4 Russian channels. Первый Baltijski and Российское телевидение was still aired in Lithuania. So this Radio TV Commission got full legal powers. First of all, if they see that Russian TV they are violating our law, there was a phased approach. You warn them. Your program was propagating Nazism or fascism. We will not allow you to do this. So you introduce, you warn this in 2 months. You punish with the financial penalties, and then in half year you took them out of air, and that's it. So it's you. So if you are you are TV, you have infrastructure, of course, the system in Lithuania, and you are out of air. So this is not probably which would ruin Первый canal of Russia, but it's already damaged the activities. So you do the same with other. If you see that Russian energy companies are violating your laws and also using, for example, some of the money from the activities goes to sponsor some radical Russian political parties, and so you also warn them, and you can limit their activities. So energy became even more good case what one country can do. We started to in a quite early stage understood that energy is not only economic commodity and activity. This is also part of Russia's influence or operation. What I meant here, we have, for example, Gazprom importing gas from Russia to Lithuania, and this company was full of various gray companies around, and these companies were sponsoring some strange activities of motorcycle clubs and so on. So of course, first thing to do was to get rid of all the Russian energy dependency, which was not easy. It's not like you do this in 1 month. It's really a system whereby we got rid of Russia's oil supply, gas supply, and actually only last year. But finally, thanks God, we got rid of Russia's energy networks dependency. So this is long-term investment by government, by region, because in energy field we dealt very much in concert with Latvia, Estonia. But again, this is what one country and region can do, because when we now, for example, we hear our Hungarian colleagues telling to us that how can we avoid not buying Russian oil and gas? We do not have a other means of supply. So our answer was, where were you 5 years ago? And we talk about this in EU, NATO for already decades, not least since the first Russia's war in Ukraine 2014, where we clearly understood that Russia is not anymore our partner, is enemy, is the country which causing the problems. So of course, in some cases, like media literacy, you can do this, not easy, but still, it's doable in short period of time. You start to introduce this in school curriculum, or even when European Commission started to deal with big American tech companies, Facebook, Twitter, pressing them to clean their content from various the bots and trolls. So of course it's doable. It's doable. In energy security, energy resilience, it takes years, but still you need to start from somewhere. If you think of your country, that your country region should be, I will say totally free of any influence, but to minimize your possibilities, you need to invest. So this is what one country or region can do.
Nice. And I think this is a very interesting plan to do. But I also would like to ask you, when you try to deter these threats and you get rid of Первый canal, other canal, a channel, or from big corporations, there is still some segment of people who use, like everyone uses social media, and it's still there. So basically, Russia infiltrates through the social media and private channels, chats. How do you deal with this part? Because Russian-speaking people are using all this stuff, and they are still
Yeah,
believing.
yeah.
So, how should countries deal with this?
This is, as I said, uh, I mentioned this cases of legally dealing with this Russian TV channels as really doable in short periods. But to change mindset of people, I don't want to say to retrain them, because that would really be a bit of not in my philosophy. No, for example, again, I will take a very actual case. Again, around the time of after the first Russia's war, 2014, we investigating by our experts investigating Lithuania's public perceptions. They went into the quite strange phenomena that we have quite a strong Polish minority presence in Lithuania, which is
Yeah.
historical. It's not nothing to do with Poland invading. No, this is Poles living in Vilnius, around Vilnius, the centuries. So it's they are our part of our custom and traditions and culture. But suddenly we realized again, various opinion polls have shown that this segment of Polish speakers, not speakers, Poles living in Lithuania, they are very much they are very much using the same narrative as Russian speakers. This is not the war. Ukrainians' desire to join NATO is the problem, and nothing to do with Russia. I know you know all this. And
Yeah.
suddenly we realized, so why Polish people living in Lithuania? They are, and then of course this investigation have shown that many of them because again, this is the big problem, but it's doable. We realize that many of them they do not operate Lithuanian language freely. So when you live in village and you Polish speaking environment, your neighbors are Poles, you speak Polish, this is fine. But you come home evening and you want to know, news. So what channels you switch? Use as a chat. Even if Первый Baltitsky will be not aired, you can go to social media and then you watch Russian TV because you don't know Lithuanian so well. And of course, since you watch Russian TV, all this Russian propaganda goes well with you. So one of things we decided to do, we spoke with the Polish government, and the Polish government agreed to sponsor that quite a few Polish TV channels would start to be covered, start to cover these regions which was agented. So this Polish inhabiting population is exactly between Lithuania and Poland, on Lithuanian side. So what was our thinking then? That we are not dictating, dear Andrei, living in village next to Vilnius, don't watch Russian TV. Our answer was fine, whatever you watch, but we opening you possibility to watch Polish TV, which again. Not Lithuania, but Polish. We felt that the more TV channels, the more information channels he or she will receive, the more will be adequate understanding of. So again, it's very difficult with this to change mindset of people. You don't deal this like a don't watch Russian TV or this is more like you organize discussions. You try to deal in earlier years in the schools. You try to present in Polish or Lithuanian media environment various examples, to show examples how Russian propaganda is working. And again, I just although I have used this Polish example, but it's exactly this is where Russians are very masterly using this case. Poland, Lithuania. Now we are friends and neighbors, and but there are historical legacies. There are historical injustice, not frankly say, as between Poland and Ukraine. I should be probably very diplomatic, not going to, but it's history. There are many dark sides. But for example, we're still discussing on validity of some Polish letters in Lithuania's Latin alphabet. We unfortunately we don't allow Polish names in some streets where there is a Polish concentration of Polish population, and this unresolved issues, some of them very very small but symbolic, they are targeted by Russian propaganda to show, dear Poles living in Lithuania, Russians is not your enemy. We are your friends. Lithuanian government is your enemy because they're not delivering. So this is exactly the case where Russian propaganda and Russian hybrid French machinery is very massively using all this nitty-gritty of social or historical or ethical problems.
Yeah, this is very interesting. And I think that the next question would be, you talked about special departments or special governmental entities who could deal with this, because when hybrid attacks happen, it's already like an act of war, somehow near the act of war. And who would be the best entity to deal with these hybrid threats? Like, is it a ministry, or is it a department in the ministry, or on a European level, who would deal with this? Because it seems like there is no one entity dealing with these hybrid threats, because there is an information component, it's dealt by one organ. Another one would be dealt by army or others. So how would this entity look like, or who is the best to deal with these hybrid threats?
But this is exactly, Andrew, I was mentioning this all government and all society approach, which is now we need to explain to listeners that we now switch from this hybrid deterrence by punishment again back to the resilience case. In this resilience case, this all government approach means that you have more or less standing the bureau, usually under the government, all in the chancellery of the government, which probably not be very numerous. You don't need to have 100 people sitting without a job and waiting when this crisis happened. Why there is no crisis? Oh, you have quite a thin bureau or center. Usually it's called National Crisis Response Center, which would monitor current situation. They would receive reports from intelligence service, from military intelligence, from police, from custom, from all institutions. They would. This is what is called signals. You don't know. You are receiving small signal that there was a small accident with in custom on this crossing point, Lithuania-Belarusian custom. Okay, there was some accident, and so okay, this accident happens. There was some misunderstanding, but then this bureau or National Security Service, they're receiving all the signals. They try to put into wider picture whether this is only isolated small accident or this is part of a possible chain of activities. So, for example, the recent story with the balloons flying over Lithuanian territory. I don't know whether you know. So this is again not. I am not proud to say, but this was the case. The illegal smuggling of cigarettes from Belarus to Lithuania is already for some time because of the EU and Belarusian cigarette prices are enormous, like 5 or 10 times. Of course, it's, when there are price difference, there are always illegal smuggling. So Belarusians and Lithuanian probably criminal networks were already dealing, cooperating in this phenomena. So at one moment when Lithuania toughened border control, because 5 years ago you can cross in the forest and there was no border. Some radars might notice you, but you can do this quickly. So when Lithuania built a barbed wire line with Belarus, so this smuggling of cigarettes became quite difficult. So some of the methods became quite innovative. Balloons. So balloons carrying nearly 100 kilos cigarettes crossing Lithuania by air, and then by it's attached SMS card is attached. So this illegal gang, criminal gang on Lithuanian side, cashing this cargo, and then it's. So of course, this phenomena is initially is dealt by this National Security Bureau. So first of all, they receive information from military radars. There are some illegal flying of objects, and then of course they say whether this is plane or smaller than plane. Then they are watching in various. They are watching in Lithuania's media environment. There are some informational leaks of someone is. Then of course you are also have you are dealing with Vilnius airport, because there were quite a few stories where Vilnius airport was closed. So you need to have someone sitting in one place and trying to deal with all sort of phenomena, from radars picture to trying to investigate. Then you because of the illegal criminal gangs, you of course need to have police start to report to you to see the picture. So this is with all hybrid threats. You need to start with someone in focal place. If you don't have a chemical expert right to your office, you know office of Lithuania's government which is dealing with radioactive or whatever issues, and so you call them, or they go in 1 hour, they join your bureau and try to present their expertise. So this focal point is the answer. That means that with a say natural fire, you still need to have coordination, but it's less complex. Because you need to have fire brigades in the hand, some rescue teams, medical teams. But with hybrids, you don't know. You need to have quite a vast expertise, cyber experts, radioactive experts, because there might be case rescue teams, then disinformation experts in your office also. So this is where what many actually, now I should proudly say that we were pioneers, Lithuania, Latvia, Poland, and then Finland. But now many EU NATO countries have introduced similar systems, big and smaller system, but more or less all countries. And then of course we supported that in both in EU NATO there are similar coordination units which have this the same very similar sort of attitude, that they have expertise, or at least they know where to speak or what program to call in order to have experts to invite this expert to come to join them. So this is what usually it's the, as I said, minimum what your country and organizations should do. And
yeah, this is very interesting, and I think that experience from Baltic states can actually be implemented in the EU. And it actually brings me to the next question: do you see any improvement on the EU level in terms of deterring Russian hybrid threats? Are there any new methods introduced? Because people think only about sanctions, about trade deals that are not happening, but what else is introduced there? Is there any kind of improvement, or at least improvement on the doctrine level, that we should do something more and react more than even react before something happens? What do you think about that?
Again, let's deal this piece by piece. This resilience, or what is called in literature deterrence by denial. This is, I think, is already introduced by all NATO EU countries. So first of all, there are national units which have very good coordination. So everything, whenever some hybrid attack happening in Lithuania, we immediately can our unit in Vilnius coordinates with Riga. There was a case where IKEA, Swedish superstore, IKEA storage in Vilnius got a fire. And then it was followed by disinformation that it's a big crisis happens. So of course, our unit, National Crisis Management Center, started to deal, inviting the police to start investigation. Then, so of course, this international operations to catch penetrators took some months. And just to say that this was the few illegal Ukrainians nationals. They were used by GRU, and they were catched in Poland. So of course you need to have national system coordination. You need to have coordination between various governments. For example, again, this international coordination. DHL planes, I think 2 years ago, they have the packages with self-implosive packages. So this plane, DHL plane, was loaded by this self-imploded cargo in Vilnius, and it landed in Germany, I think in Berlin. So of course, thanks God, this not happened, but there was a need to deal Lithuania and then Germany to try to find out who are these people and so on. So always dealing with this complex hybrid operations, you need to have national system and then coordination. But of course, in case of the wider phenomena, like spring of last year was one by one, you can read this in the media, was cables, ITC or energy cables were cut in the Baltic Sea. Okay, again, I remember I was then in US, and I would speak with my American friends. They say, it happens. But my argument was, look, the cutting of cable by ship anchoring, it happens, but not like twice per week and it's 3 months in a row. This is, I cannot buy this. You need to investigate. So of course, first response was regional countries came together, Latvia, Lithuania, Finland. They started to check, to monitor what are the ships. Suddenly we found out that many of this shadow fleet used by Russians to carry their oil from Russia, they were involved. There was some Chinese ship was also involved. So of course, in this complex way, we started to deal regionally. Our experts, national security and anti-terrorism experts started to come together. But we approach NATO EU, say, look, we need you supporting. And this is one of elements NATO decided to start operation, maritime operation in the Baltic Sea, which was called Baltic Sentry, Baltic Guardian, Baltic Sentry, which started to use drones, started to monitor ships and so on. So of course, this goes the same with your question. What one country can do, regional countries can do, and why you need sometimes bigger entities like NATO EU to be involved. So this response to hybrid is really complex. Sometimes you send a NATO ship to monitor other ships. Sometimes you introduce sanctions. Sometimes you hit organizations like we taking out of air Russian TV companies. Sometimes you arrest some Russian individuals which are penetrating these operations. In case of, again, another more massive operation, 2018 was known because of this accident in UK, Salisbury, where the ex-Russian spy Skripal and his daughter, they were nearly poisoned. There was an attempt to poison them. And Then, of course, you might say this is a typical criminal operation, which was operation using the criminal methods. But by all methods, this was a hybrid operation. Why? It was made by GRU. It was signal. It was if they wanted to kill Skripal, they can do this easily. But the very way open and sending signal using this Novichok meant that there was also signal by GRU. We can hit you guys. You will not be hidden in UK, in US. We will find you, and so. So then, of course, UK government was very nervous because this was the first time in UK territory after Lithuanian. I think it was second time.
Yeah.
But this way it was even more dramatic. Then Prime Minister of UK, Theresa May. This was already after Brexit, but UK was still temporary in the EU negotiating exit. She came to the EU Council and said, look, we need EU and NATO to react. Because if only UK will react, it will be too little. So, of course, there were sanctions introduced, but EU and NATO countries, I think not all, okay, but nearly all, 30 EU NATO countries, in concerted way, came with this, because Russia's GRU, we say, we send each country declared persona non grata, quite a big list of Russian agents working under diplomatic cover in Russian embassies. I remember talking to one seminar, and some of experts say, "Oh my God, are you serious? It's not. You believe it's hitting Russia?" So yes, it is not, which probably would make Putin not sleep this night. He sleeps well, probably, even hearing. But no, nearly 300 or whatever, 200 Russian well-trained GRU spies sending out of EU and NATO, and they will not come back to any of the embassies. So you destroy the Russian network for some time. It is recoverable. So you're not hitting this. We would love to hit this, but at least this is what method is called, punished. You make this punitive operation, and you hit network. So this is also part of the methods I am describing in my article report. That the very phenomena of answer in deterrence by punishment. It's in conventional war, you have your country or your target is shelled by other countries. So you symmetrically you shell your penetrator, your enemy. In hybrid, okay, if Russians conduct disinformation operation against you, you probably will not carry disinformation operation against Russia, because the methods are not symmetrical. But in some cases they might be symmetrical. For example, there were a few cases well described in international literature. That's why I can refer to them. That some of Russia's cyber attacks were hit by counter cyber attacks and destroying their servers. So it's doable also in some cases symmetrical way. You are hit by Russian disinformation. Again, I said you will not hit back by disinformation because you are the rule of law, a democratic country. But you can challenge your public of your enemy by opening more channels of information. And this is what we definitely should be do more aggressive. Now when I read these continuous stories that Russians living in Russia, they are in so limited information space, they don't know what's happening, and this is for me like, couldn't we do this more aggressively? During the Cold War, there was Voice of America. Radio Free Europe, other means of information was used not to lie to the Soviet Union people, but to show to them other side of the story, explain.
Yeah.
So shouldn't we also start to be more aggressive? For example, the stories was happening in Ukraine. I think we should come with these images from Bucha and from destroyed and cold Kiev and penetrate this to Russian media. Say you will say how? I'm not information expert. I will not present you with an answer, but at least I say this is what we should do. When war in Ukraine started, I was in Moscow as ambassador of Lithuania, but and I have read and I was really surprised positively. There was a Lithuanian private initiative in the first days of the war, when nobody knew what would happen and how long. So Lithuanian company paid like 100 volunteers, Lithuanians, or some Russian speakers in Lithuania, with a very simple purpose. They would call to random Russian telephone number, whatever, in Moscow, in St. Petersburg, in Bryansk. They say, hi, in Russian language. Hi, I want to speak with you. So of course, if guy would cancel, okay, cancel. But if the guy would listen, say, look, I am Lithuanian. I call you from Vilnius. Do you know what's happening in Ukraine? Do you know the crimes committed by Putin in Ukraine, killing people, innocent people? Some say, "Oh no, this is." Some people say, "Oh, I don't know. I'm not reading. I'm so limited to know. I'm afraid." So when afterwards this initiative was cancelled and some of Lithuanian commentators, they approached me and said, "Ambassador, is it lunatics, this Lithuanians calling to Russia?" I said, "Look, I can admit chances to reach out Russians very limited. But if you start with the assumption that we cannot do anything, then I would disagree. Even this 1 month activities of this private company calling to whatever 20,000 Russians have reached very minimal results. But at least, so that's my point is we should be more aggressively trying to put enter Russia's media, whatever social media space, and say, don't lie. We don't lie. We don't simply say what is happening, what your government is hiding from you. You don't know. So this is not probably would fall simply under rubric the deterrence by punishment. It's not punishment, but this is also one type of operations which you need to do, and this is if in the Cold War West was trying to do this in Soviet Union, why we should not do this now to Russians? But again, good luck. Some say if you agree, accept, have some access. Okay, very difficult. I know.
Yes, I think this makes sense because if you start from small initiative, maybe it can become more bigger and more
Yeah.
influential afterward. So as we approach 1 hour, I would ask you to have maybe some closing remarks for our listeners. What would you advise them, and what are your thoughts on deterring Russia hybrid warfare?
I think I was referring to 2016, whereby I was ambassador for countering hybrid threats with this role trying to engage NATO EU countries, but also we have a lot of cooperation with Ukraine. Then there was NATO initiative called NATO Russia hybrid platform. This was 2017-18, where NATO Ukraine trying to find what we can use this from Ukrainian experience and so on. But one of the efforts which I really also proud, the center was established in Helsinki under the name European Center of Excellence countering hybrid threats. Also with a very simple, again, some people, Eitvydas, do you think this center will kill Russian disinformation? No, definitely. But this is important to have expertise, exchange of views, to have to increase understanding of the hybrid warfare, because the phenomenon of hybrid is that on the other side of the fence there are guys, robots, trolls. They are developing new and new methods how to penetrate us, drones, disinformation, green man, you name it. So we should be more vigilant, and to start with the exchange of views, sharing experience like I am doing now. Ukrainians should come more often to Lithuania, which I know there are quite a number of Ukrainians coming from Ukraine to share experience on drones, where you guys are really on the front line. Why don't you would send also your experts to Lithuania to explain your experience, not only to Lithuania, to US, to London, to Berlin, to explain your experience. So this, I'm big fan of the need of the experts, officials, scientists, but also public, to have more talks about this new phenomena, new hybrid threats, and new methods, and and try to understand this phenomena, but also try to share the methods how to deal. I think this is becomes even more important as we see that the Russia is not the chance of Russia to be democratically elected Westminster democracy is so slim that that we will have aggressive Russia next to us for centuries. So that's why we need to be prepared, and that's why it's this phenomena of sharing experience it's really crucial. So that's why I would finish with the encouragement for you also to invest more in this field.
Thank you, Eitvydas, and thank you to all the listeners. Also, we will put a link to the article below the video when we upload it. And please stay tuned to our podcast and subscribe to our newsletters. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.